All right. Hello and welcome to today's drone market report discovery session. I'm very happy that you're interested in learning more about our one-of-a-kind drone market report. So up front, a few housekeeping rules. Please mute your microphones for the presentation to avoid any background noise. If you have questions, please use the chat function. It should be on your lower right corner in the screen. After the presentation, we have time for Q&As to address all your questions from the chat and everything else you want to know. So furthermore, you will get a copy of today's presentation slide deck via email after the session. If there are no questions so far, I hope you can hear me fine. If not, please tell me. I think we can get started. I'm pretty sure a few more people are going to join, but I think we waited a fair amount of time now, so let's get started. Now, let me briefly introduce myself and our company. So my name is Kai Wackwitz. I'm working for Drone Industry Insights. I'm the founder and CEO of the company. We are a market research and consulting firm that is only focused on the commercial drone space. Our goal is to make the market more transparent and to help companies and individuals to be successful in this new evolving space. Well, we are offering, as you can see, a wide range of products and services. Our reports and publications are well known as a reliable source of information throughout the industry. We also frequently offer white papers and blogs addressing industry-specific topics. On the other side, on the right side, you can see our services. So we frequently help our clients with very detailed market research. Like typical projects are companies that want to go to the commercial drone market, evaluate their market opportunity, learn more about the competitive environment, about the trends in the market dynamics, as well as regulatory advice. So there's quite a lot that we can help with in this sector. Now, if we look at the agenda for today, so I want to highlight a few things from our market report and how we do research. So first, I will walk you through our methodology of how we create such a market report. Then I give you a brief intro into the commercial drone market, how it is structured, what methods are assessed, what kind of industries are relevant for the drone market. Then I give you insight about the current drone market dynamics and the actual drone market size, which is probably the most important part of all. We have this market size broken down by region per country. Also regulation, of course, very important topic, followed by a few key trends that we want to highlight in the report. And after that, I'm very happy to answer all your questions and or forward these questions to one of our analysts if to have them follow up with you. All right, then let's dive right in. How are we doing research? On the upper half of the slide, you can see our general approach of how we collecting data, analyzing and validating it before it all goes into a report. We look at the market from different angles, different perspectives, which I think is very important to get the full picture. So we look at it from the supply side, which means hardware and software manufacturers, for example, as well as from the demand side. So that is the industry, that's the drone user in the end. So what are drone users looking for in drone technology currently? So as you can see, we use multiple sources and methods to collect and analyze data, followed by validation and aggregation before finally going into a report. So on that slide, you see our unique way of finding and aggregating data. So we have a bottom-up approach, which is unique. So we're not using some generic top-down market model. We use real data. So it took us almost 2 years to find enough credible sources for all the required data. All the data is collected, verified, and allows us to determine the market size and growth very accurately. Again, we work with real numbers, with real actual growth rates. So I think that's quite unique in this market segment. Right, the drone market. Let's start at the beginning. As you know, we live in disruptive times where technology has an increasing influence on our lives. A lot of things became possible over the last few years that would not be possible or pure science fiction a few years back. So disruptive technologies came and allowed to do things very differently, more efficiently, and changed business and the way we live around the world. Now, in terms of unmanned systems, we are probably still at the beginning, but with massive potential going forward. If you look at this slide, so this is how we basically segregate the market. These are the major market segments. We have hardware, software, and services. Now, under the hardware segment, you'll find all the platform manufacturers, passenger drone manufacturers, counter-drone system, component, and other system manufacturers. If you're at the software segment, you find companies offering flight planning, operation management software, as well as navigation, UTM, and of course, data analytics software. And last but not least, in the service segment, this is just an excerpt of the major players from the drone service provider market, but of course, also all the other related services like drone training, system integration, maintenance, and many, many more. Okay, now let's continue and look how the market is structured. Drones can be put to work in different ways. So methods describe basically the way or the technical setup, so to say, of drones. So for each application, you need a different technological setup. So there's often a confusion, about companies offering, for example, applications in energy and mapping. So yeah, what does it mean? All the tasks within the energy, there are tasks within the energy industry, and mapping as such is a method. So it's a bit of a mix. So therefore, we thought it's important to segregate this, to structure this a little bit more. We have our applications here. You can see very different setups, technological setups that are being required for these different kind of jobs. And on the other side, we have, of course, our industries. Now, that's quite a lot of industries. No worries. You'll get a presentation afterwards, so you can read this in greater detail. We are following the NAICS logic, which stands for the North American Industry Classification System. So this is the most comprehensive classification system that we could find. So in total, we have 15 verticals, and drones can be found in each one of them. Now, as you might know, a few years back, the agriculture vertical was supposed to become the biggest vertical in the drone space, but as you all probably might know, this didn't happen. Now, of course, there are other very important verticals like the energy, construction, public administration, safety, security, transportation, and warehousing. Especially the last one, transportation, warehousing, the second to the right here, is very interesting because it's not just the transportation of goods or have drones fly around in storages scanning barcodes. It's also the transportation infrastructure, like the inspection of roads, train tracks, bridges, airfields, and all the maintenance of that. So the main method found here, actually, in transportation warehousing is inspection, and therefore I think it's important to segregate these methods and the industry verticals in a very pedantic way. So in the report, you will find which vertical is going to develop how, which one is the fastest growing, and many, many more information. Okay, now let's go to market dynamics. The market is developing very, very quickly, and quicker than you know. The drone here shown in the middle is not even on the market anymore. There are some general trends like the constantly increasing degree of automation and connectivity or cross-vertical technology transfer, for example, from the autonomous driving or 5G technology, but also other market dynamics related to hardware, software, services are important. Also, the before-mentioned industries, they continue to develop. Regulation, of course, very big impact. Also, the lockdowns caused by the coronavirus situation. So all of these market dynamics and what that means in the context for the commercial drone market is also described in much greater detail here in our report. So finally, the numbers. So I hope for your understanding that I can only give you some high-level numbers here at this point. I mean, this is what our report is all about. So a little spoiler alert here. The global drone market is expected to grow from 22 billion in 2020 to 43 billion US dollars in 2025, at a compound annual growth rate of just under 14%. So this includes the commercial and the private market. This includes all the before mentioned segments, so hardware, software, and services. This includes all the industry verticals that I just showed you, and this, of course, includes all the methods that I mentioned earlier. So the total market value is a little lower than expected last year. And why that is also described in much greater detail in the report. Now, let's go a bit more into detail. We broke down the commercial drone market by region and country. So as you can see, some regions, just like Asia, are already very big and are on their way to grow even bigger. But also the European and the North American market are going to nearly double over the course of the next 5 years. So in the report, we highlight what we call the top 10 countries in greater detail. They are shown here below on the lower end of the page. We show the distribution between the commercial and the private market for each country. We show the distribution, we show the market size by segment, so hardware, software, services. We show it by industry, even by method, and unit sales. So that's a very detailed breakdown per each country, all the market numbers that you could possibly need. Now, moving on to the regulatory environment. So the regulation, like everywhere in the world, is a big hurdle to scale drone operation. It's important, of course, that we have a framework that is reliable and waterproof in every kind of aspect. But of course, it takes a lot of time. And as you can see in the graphic, there are a lot of international and national stakeholders involved in the rulemaking process. And that, of course, means it takes a lot of time. Now, after crawling through all the different rules from all the different countries, we created a very simple overview for a better comparison in the report. So what we did is really crunching through all the different frameworks that we could find around the world. We figured out what are like the key aspects of a regulation, and then we basically made a very simple overview comparing these different parameters, to help people identify what is a good market, what's a bad market, what is a permissive framework, and what and where is it very hard to scale or even operate at all. So that's all broken down here, as well as, of course, all the changes that are in the pipeline and all the key challenges that the drone industry is currently facing. All right, so moving on to trends. Now, trends show how, let me start the other way. Let's start on the left side. So as you can see, we see trends. We see drone trends. For example, here, drone delivery. Now, drone delivery is not a mega trend or something. Almost all the trends you can find in the drone space are micro trends, and these micro trends contribute to a larger trend. For example, electromobility as a macro trend here in this example. And a lot of macro trends then are contributing to an even bigger mega trend in this case, or in this example, urbanization. So basically all the trends that we highlight are micro trends. Now, there are 3 types of trends, as you can see. That's regulatory trends, technological trends, and social trends. Now, let's start with regulation. I already mentioned it. Regulatory trends are basically the constant, further development of these frameworks. And social trends is, mainly related to social acceptance, data and security concerns, and so on. So there's also a lot happening on that end. GDPR last year really helped us a lot on this space. But the main driver, or the main thing that we want to highlight here, are the technological trends. So we explain a total of 13 trends in the report in greater detail, and 6 of them in very great detail. And so these are the ones here shown in bold. So all that can be found in our report. It's very comprehensive. I think there was a lot of information for you right now. I hope you found them any valuable. So there's a lot of more information in our 225-page report explaining everything in much greater detail. And yeah, last but not least, let's look at the bigger picture again. And there's one more thing I want to highlight. So to make good research, you have to look at the commercial drone market from different angles, different perspectives, as mentioned earlier. So for all of these aspects of the market, we created specific reports to support decision-making, business modeling, and even strategic partnerships. So all of these reports can either be acquired individually or can be part of a research subscription that we offer. So this subscription offers or includes all the reports, all databases. It includes subscriber exclusive content and much more. So thank you very much for your attention. Before we start into the Q&A session, I would like to ask you for a really quick favor. Let me copy a link into the chat window. It would be fantastic if you could give me a little bit of feedback for today's session so that we can learn what we can improve in our webinars, that we can maybe, help you answering your questions better. And yeah, it would be fantastic if you could take this little 5-question survey real quick. You can do it right now, maybe, while all the questions are coming in. So thanks again for your attention. I'm really happy to answer all your questions now. You can unmute your microphones if you like. You can also alternatively use the chat window to place your questions. If I should not be able to answer them, I will forward them to one of our analysts and get back to you. As mentioned, today's presentation will be, as well as a report sample from our market report, will be sent to you in a PDF format after the call. So you have a go-to document available whenever you need it. So yeah, please feel free to unmute or type in your questions into the chat window, and I'm happy to answer your questions now. All right, so here's one question in the chat window. Is BV loss considered in the market forecast? Does 2025 numbers expect that BV loss is widely adopted? Very good question. So yes, BV loss is definitely in the report. So, but we made a very conservative approach on that end. As you know, there are a lot of programs everywhere in the world to implement BV laws frameworks. Right now, in almost every country, BV laws is still on a waiver or an exemption basis. So it's not a standard rule following, very standardized form. There are a few countries that have that, but that's not even a handful. So we made a very conservative approach here, saying that yes, BV loss will be possible in the next few years, but not at very great scale. And I think this assumption was right, as we saw recently in the EASA framework that now allows by following certain criteria to fly in a 2-kilometer distance, following a little framework here. It's not what we want in terms of BV loss, but it's a start. So again, yes, it's included, but in a rather conservative way. So we're not expecting that everyone will fly, BV loss missions over 100 or even thousands of kilometers in the next 5 years. So that I think is an assumption that would be a bit too optimistic, I guess. Yeah. Okay, next question. Do you have detailed unit sales of agricultural drones, both imaging and spraying, by manufacturer and country? So yes, we have unit sales for the vertical agriculture. We do not have, in the report, we do not have a breakdown by these different types of agriculture drones. But that is something that we can tailor make. So it's not part of the report, but this is something that we can definitely do for you. So if you are interested in this kind of research, please drop us a line. Let me show you our email address. I think it's here on the last page. Oh, yeah, there you can see it. So please feel free to drop us an email at info@droneai.com. Let me also put it into the chat window so that you can just copy paste it out. So feel free to send us an email anytime you like. We're more than happy to get back to you and help you with exactly this kind of research. So this is what we're good for. Okay, what's the source of your data? Accuracy level, question mark. So we have quite a lot of sources for data. As I mentioned, it took us quite a while to find these sources and to validate them if they are credible enough for what we plan doing. And basically what we want is to bring the best possible quality to the market. So we collected tons of data from government agencies, from manufacturers, from service providers, from even software downloads. So we have quite a very big set of sources that we use, that we validate against each other, and then go with that. So I think from an accuracy level, we are really, really good. Just today in our lunch break, we had a really great conversation that our prediction in unit sales in the US was so on top that we, it was such a minor deviation from the actual FAA numbers. So that was really fantastic. So we had a really good moment there today at lunch. Okay, I hope this helps. Again, if you like to learn more about how we generate these reports, in the report sample that I'm going to send you, you will also find a few pages about our methodology, and everything is described in much greater detail there. Hope that helps. So next question, how do you think the legislation on UAS will evolve in the next years, especially in terms of homogeneity, interoperability among the different countries, if possible? That's a good question. So as you know, the European Union is planning to roll out a new drone rule set, which then applies for all European countries. So this, of course, sounds great because it kind of implies that then basically every country is handling drones the same way, except that they are not, because how can I say this? The amendment that comes from the EU needs to be combined with the local aviation law, and the local aviation law, even in Europe today, is different. So you will never have two countries that look exactly the same. They will probably look quite similar in probably the major aspects of this regulation, but there will always be differences. But this is just speaking for the EU. When it comes to global drone regulation, I think it's even more trickier. But so far, so I'm from the commercial aviation, like manned aircraft, and what we discovered there is usually that many countries basically orient themselves quite strongly on US frameworks and EU frameworks. So this is something that a lot of countries do. So there is a good chance that maybe a rule set in I don't know, South America in some country, or in another country in Asia, might somehow look like a framework from the US or from the EU, because they usually look into these rule sets and then not copy paste them, but very strongly focus on what they did and how they did, and take over the major parts. So I hope that helped your question. If you seek more advice in terms of regulation, we also have a drone regulation report. We issued it last year. We are about to publish a new version, so stay tuned. It's ready. We are just waiting for publication next week. So stay tuned if you want to learn more about the drone regulation. So next question, will COVID-19 increase or decrease the size of the drone market? Yeah, very good question. So of course we consider this. I can't give you a spoiler alert here at this point what the result of that is, but let me put it this way. The COVID-19 crisis had two completely opposite effects on the drone market. So while smaller companies, especially service providers, are struggling quite quite a lot because they maybe had like 2 or 3 bigger clients, and these 2 or 3 bigger clients, shut down all the innovation projects, shut down all these things that just cost money. So there are a lot of people, suffering and also report a decrease in demand. I think it's nearly 30% of smaller companies. On the other side, you see larger companies or SMEs to really use this pandemic as a chance to digitalize, to innovate, to go new ways, explore new opportunities. And drones, surprisingly, are a very big part of that. Drones are at the point where they can, be used for quite a big variety of tasks, data collection and so on. You probably heard it. A zipline was flying medication and COVID tests with their drones in Rwanda, and they collected 200,000 flights over 2 years. But in the last 3.5 months, they flew another 200,000 flights, they delivered 200,000 deliveries, goods, tests, whatever it was. So you see a massive increase in using this because you don't need a driver, you don't need this, handover thing in high-risk areas like a hospital. So I think that's a fantastic trend. So it goes both ways, but which of the 2 factors is dominating can be found in the report. Can't spoil this at this point, sorry. So roughly how many actors provide drone flight control systems that can be certified? Any open source? That's a very detailed question. I can look into this. I know there are a few open source. Not sure about the status, about the certification right now, but I can look this up for you. So Moritz, if you could please drop us a line, real quick email so I don't forget. I'm more than happy to get back to you with some more information. All right. So what's the next question? Could you describe the market segmentation for delivery market segment? What's to describe? So yeah, there is, I think, a lot to say about drone delivery right now. As you know, it's all over the news, so it's really picking up pace. As mentioned, COVID-19 crisis certainly is a big trigger for this. Volanzi, I think, earlier this week raised another 50 million in venture capital funding to scale their drone delivery project. So I think that's fantastic, and that's a great sign for the drone market. Now, what can I describe with this segment? So there's a lot happening, as I just mentioned. There's in fact so much happening that we created a drone delivery report, which can be found on our homepage. So please refer to this. I think it would be, it would just take up too much time to, say everything about the delivery market at this point. So please refer to our drone delivery report. I think this will help you. You can check out the table of content, table of figures. I think this gives you a really good impression of what you can find in this report, and maybe it also answers the questions that you might have. If not, happy to answer your email anytime. Feel free to reach out, and hope that helps it. Next question: do you think COVID-19 affects the drone industry, and if how? Okay, I think we just had this question, Federica. I hope you're satisfied with the answer I just gave. If not, also please drop us a line. Happy to explain everything in greater detail. Now, next question. Other market experts constantly. What is update cycle for your market forecasts? Annually, quarterly? So we are currently running with a yearly cycle. But we're constantly monitoring the data. Right now we're running in a yearly cycle, but as things are starting to consolidate and kind of slow down, I think we might look into increasing this interval to maybe 18 months. But right now we run annually. Okay, next question. Do you know the total size of the market with universities that are working on drones? So yes, there are a lot of programs in universities. There's a lot of development work being done there, which is fantastic. There's great work coming out of this. But from the way we are evaluating the market size, I think it is important to understand that universities are not adding value in terms of revenue. So there is a lot happening, yes, but since we are looking at the market size in terms of revenue generated, universities are not playing a role in this way we are looking at the market. I hope that helps. Maybe I answered your question wrongly. Then please forgive me and maybe write me an email real quick explaining this maybe a little bit further. But hopefully this helps for you to understand right now. All right. I think that's also a question. So DJI is one of the market leaders worldwide. The COVID era has seen many restrictions by major countries, putting restrictions on imports from China. Is this creating changes in market coverage by other drone manufacturers? Yeah, so I think the political situation in the US is really tricky right now. As you know, probably Chinese drones in general are banned in the government sector. So neither military nor police, fire department, you name it, no government entities are allowed to fly or use DJI drones right now because there would be some kind of data leak. So these kind of accusations, are in a hot discussion right now. But the bottom line is that right now DJI drones are banned in this sector, which is, I think, really bad because they can, even if there was such a leak, still, generate or help so much. They could actually save actual lives, and now they are grounded for maybe no reason. So I think this is a very tricky situation. It's purely political, I think. So let's see how this will continue to go. I don't see that Chinese drones in general, no matter the manufacturer, are banned in the private space. So for the consumer and prosumer space, drones are still going strong in the US. But coming back to your question, yeah, of course, it is a big chance now for American or even European manufacturers to go into the role of supplying these government entities with drone technology. So absolutely, this will definitely help companies. I recently saw a list of companies that are that can be used by these government entities. I think there was also a French manufacturer amongst them. So I think that's great news for American drone manufacturers. Skydio, for example, I think will be very happy. AeroVironment anyway. They are providing their drones to the military space for years now. So I think it's for them it's good, yeah. But I think it also does a lot of harm in many other aspects. If you could maybe use drones to find missing people or to transport vaccines and just because it's a Chinese drone that falls away, could save lives. And I'm sad about it, but I think that's a political thing, and the discussion about it is so much bigger than what we could discuss here today. So I hope that answer helped. So next question: do you see any new trends in drone energy sources, battery, hydrogen, liquid fuels? Oh, fantastic question. That's my favorite topic. So for small drones, no, we don't see that. Why? So right now the lithium polymer and lithium ion batteries kind of good. They're still heavy for what they for their power they can bring, but on the other side they are very easy handling. The infrastructure is everywhere. You just need to plug them into a socket and then you can charge them. So it's the easiest possible way. For smaller drones, it works out. It's no problem. But if you want to go bigger, the weight of the battery increases more than the weight of the platform, just in terms of scale. So you will reach a point where the drone will just not fly on battery anymore, or maybe it flies like those current air taxis, maybe for 2 minutes, but that's nothing you could really use, right? So you need to look for something else. So there will be definitely a battery market for the smaller drones. Maybe we see then some blurred area where you can have the same weight class of drones, both using batteries or, for example, hydrogen or other liquid fuels. And then if you go even bigger, and I think we're talking, half a ton payload, half a ton takeoff weight, maybe even more. So like, all those concepts that you see right now in terms of air taxis or very large cargo drones. So I'm very convinced that they will probably, in the long run, not fly on batteries. The question is, what will they use instead? And I think that's also so my bet personally, of course, if you ask me personally, I think hydrogen will have a very big success in the future. But the problem with hydrogen is it's basically two things. The hydrogen that you want is liquid hydrogen because the energy density is so much higher. It's 150 times higher than lithium-ion battery. So if my phone here lasts for like 2 days, the same weight of the battery in hydrogen could power this cell phone 1 year. So the energy density is just massive in liquid hydrogen. But the problem is storage. You need to cool it to like minus 200 something degrees. So just to have that infrastructure to cool down liquid hydrogen on every place in the world, that's tricky. This is really that's hard to do. So if you look at the infrastructure, it's basically easier to have liquid fuels like kerosene or gasoline. Because the infrastructure is much better in this sense. It's not that good like electricity, but it's not as bad as hydrogen today. I'm pretty sure that the hydrogen infrastructure will improve massively since all the manufacturers are now going on hybrid. The big trucks, the semi trucks. There are a lot of concepts that aim for hydrogen, and with this, the infrastructure will improve. But I think this is a very long topic here. So this will take maybe a decade or something until you have an infrastructure that is satisfying enough to have not just cars but maybe also larger drones run on hydrogen. And the other thing also is when it comes to liquid fuels, I could talk for this forever. So sorry if anyone is annoyed at this point. So the other thing is if you want to fly in or near urban areas, I think the acceptance for liquid fuels is rather low. So if you come around with a disruptive technology, people on the ground basically just want water vapor and butterflies out of the exhaust. They don't want burnt kerosene, in their backyard. So I'm pretty sure that you will have to fight against resistances at this end if you go with liquid fuels in urban areas. So I think for mid-range, maybe even short-range cargo transport from one parcel center to another, hub-spoke traffic, I think liquid fuels are completely fine. Maybe even hydrogen. But if it comes to urban traffic, delivery drones or larger drones that might, supply a big, maybe even a hospital with goods or say a packaging station, then I think different energy sources would be required to get this, social buy-in. Okay, next question, last question here on the chat. Please feel free to enter more. Okay, second to last question. Do you have also some survey regarding drone training academy market programs and costs? We don't have it off the shelf, Vincent. We can definitely look into this in detail. It would be fantastic if you maybe could send us a follow-up email. I'm more than happy to see what we can do at this point. We are monitoring the training market and the different services that are being offered in there. But we don't have it in this report or in any other, but this is something that we definitely can customize for you. Okay, next question from Frederica. What is the main trend in terms of in the particular case of startups operating in the drone field? Yeah. Question is, what startups? Maybe you can elaborate really quick on that. I think this goes in very different directions when you look at hardware, software, and services. I don't know, Frederica, if you could quickly elaborate what kind of startup you mean. Okay. So the question is startups in general, as an innovative environment, companies doing innovation. Yes. Okay. Thanks. So yeah, of course. I mean, there's always a niche that is uncovered. There's always a vision of people, and startups are the best place to drive this innovation. We see it here. We have a lot of co-working spaces, but they are not just full with startups. They are also full with larger companies that seek the exchange, that want to have partners to ping pong their ideas with. So I think startups in this case have a very big, they're very important to this drone market. Their value proposition surely is that they are very agile, that they can identify a niche and then bring a product to the market really quickly. We see this, for example, in drone navigation software. So the probably most advanced navigation software comes with Skydio drones. So you can just set a waypoint A and B and say, tell the drone go fly from A to B as quickly as possible. But between these 2 points, there's a forest, and the drone will just avoid every obstacle. So this is something that startups are really great with in finding solutions for these kind of problems. And bringing them to the market really quickly, and also continue with the innovation, improving their MVP, and make it more advanced, make it bigger, sell it more often. So yes, it's absolutely important to have these players in the market and to see what they do. And I think you see this everywhere. We also have in our drone investment report, we have a very long list of companies that got acquired in the past by even larger companies. So what you just mentioned, their value proposition is basically they have a really great idea, bring it to the market. This idea is discovered by a larger company, and they say, yeah, this is perfect. This is like the missing piece that we wanted. This is exactly something that we needed, but that our organization wasn't able to pull off. And so they get acquired by this larger company, and now this bigger company increase their value proposition. So this is something that we see a lot. So if you're interested in this, we have our drone investment report that highlights all the strategic partnerships, all the investments, and of course all the mergers and acquisitions in this space. All right, now I need a sip of water. Any more questions? More than happy. I think we have some more time. 45 minutes in. If not, thank you very much for your attention. It was great that you guys joined today's session. If you have any follow-up questions, I mentioned it a couple of times. Feel free to drop us an email anytime you like. Also, as mentioned before, this presentation and the market report sample will be sent to you after this call as a PDF, so that you have a go-to document whenever you need it. Thanks for participating. And yeah, have a wonderful remaining day. Thank you very much.